Everyone, Dan from the Nostalgia Test podcast, and just wanted to warn everyone that the conversation on this episode will go into some of the disturbing physical and sexual violence that's both in the book version of American Psycho and the movie. Thank you.
On today's episode, we welcome back Nostalgia Test podcast all-star Billy D'Elia to put the 2000 satirical horror film American Psycho to the ultimate test, the Nostalgia Test. I have to return some videotapes.
Welcome to the Nostalgia Test podcast, the show where two longtime friends put their mainstream pop culture past to the ultimate test, the Nostalgia Test.
That was the best line in the movie. I didn't realize how many times he said that.
Oh,
and then
amazing.
I'm like, man, we always had to go return videotapes.
That's right. That
was like
the
funniest excuse, the best excuse. Now you can't take that excuse at all.
None, no excuse. But everyone,
now
welcome.
I think the new excuse is like, oh, I have COVID.
Okay. Oh my god.
Why can't you hang out? I think I got COVID, man.
Yeah. Or look, it was the I don't know.
What was when does this take place?
The 80s.
The 80s.
I think it's 1989. Like there's one point where he has the Zagat guide where he's looking up to Call Dorsey, and I think it's 1989.
Dorsey. Everyone. Okay. Well, everyone.
Also, did he call the club Escape that he didn't call it Escape. He called it.
But they weren't pronounced that way. It was pronounced in some bougie way because it was supposed to be bougie.
Like Rodeo Drive.
Yeah, that's rodeo. Everyone, we know it's rodeo.
That
we know it. It's just rodeo.
He called it like a saspa. I forget how he called it, and I was like, it says Escape. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, everyone, welcome to another episode of the Nostalgia Test podcast. I'm your host, Dan Dissinger, here in LA. I'm here with my longtime friend and co-host Manny Coelho there in New York. Manny, I mean, we've already started. We're here with Billy. Everyone, if you're not up on the episodes that Billy has done, get with it. It's
already got a lot of compliments for episodes that I'm not in. I'm like, oh yeah,
Black Album episode.
Yeah, the guy that was supposed to be on the episode that we just moved, the DJ, he was like, oh, I was just bumping the Metallica Black Album because of your episode. I was like, I wasn't on that one.
Well, you came in. You definitely podcast bombed that one.
I jumped in. in.
Yeah, but Billy has been on that episode. Check out the Roadhouse episode, then the Roadhouse reboot episode.
Oh God.
The 2000, was it the 2021 or 2020 hangout, which that was a way, this podcast is about to be
also the wrestling one, the part one.
Oh, the 3-part wrestling episode, which we gotta,
which someone fucking called us out and said we got it wrong.
Well, they got it wrong. People
are wrong.
Fuck you. HBK is the best wrestler.
Yeah, and at this point, I have to just retire The Undertaker as well now. Like, it's over. Like, all these wrestlers need to shut up. Just keep tombstoning and leg dropping and be quiet.
Yeah, but they've always been whatever, and that's. But now it's gotten like now everybody has a podcast, so like
now we know about it. It's the 24/7 media and the Twitter and everything. Like we didn't know what the hell they thought back.
I guess they weren't.
I could tell you, I'm not shocked.
I'm not shocked, but it's just like, when like you hear it and you're just like, what, you didn't have enough matches to talk about? I mean, come on, bro. Anyway, we're here.
People need to go back to the Michael Jordan aspect of like, how come you don't get involved in politics? And he said, because Republicans buy sneakers too, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Or like when Elvis was asked or something, like what his thoughts were on some things, or there were musicians back then. They're like, look, I make music. I don't know what the hell I'm talking. Like, I don't know what I'm talking about. It's like people go to Kid Rock or someone like, or even anyone to be like, yeah, tell me.
The problem is they get endorsed and they get paid a lot of money for it. So like, this is all cash grabs. Anyways,
well, that's a tangent. People, we are here to talk about.
Check out Billy's episodes because Billy's a very great guest.
Yeah. And check out
he's like
what will
he's
come
actually
up.
like a third member of the group.
Yeah, because we have
appreciate it, guys.
we have a huge series coming up of the Metallica Eras episode. We just recorded a thrash episode. Man, you want to come on the next one with the Black Album Load and Reload?
I might. I'm gonna have to. I missed the last one, so
you should come on the Saint Anger episode. All right, so
I already know Billy's ending of like we could fast forward to the end and say like Billy's gonna say this fucking passes just because. First of all, I only know this movie because of Billy.
Yes.
Okay. I remember watching this movie. I think I might have been on shrooms one time
watching
this at your house, and I was like, I need to go upstairs. Yeah, because this is definitely a Billy of like, oh, we're hanging out.
We're
just gonna put this on.
Yeah,
yeah. Like we had parties playing fucking like beer pong, and then all of a sudden it's like Billy's just putting on American Psycho. Like, why is this on?
Well, yeah, and this movie came out in 2000s, 24 years old at this point. American Psycho, directed by Mary Harron, who co-wrote the screenplay with Guinevere Turner, based on the 1991 novel by Bret Easton Ellis. It stars Christian Bale as Patrick Bateman, a New York City investment banker who leads a double life as a serial killer. It also stars Willem Dafoe, Jared Leto, Josh Lucas, Chloe Sevigny, Samantha Mathis, Cara Seymour, Justin Theroux, and Reese Witherspoon, all appearing in supporting roles. And it blends horror and black comedy. Jared
Leto too, yeah.
And I said Jared Leto. I said him. We got him in there.
Whoops.
Don't worry. The cult is okay. To satirize the 1980s yuppie culture and consumerism exemplified by Bateman. And that's really all we really kind of need to know about this as a foundation for this movie. But yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about first time seeing this, I mean, I think it was with Billy. I don't think I saw this any other way. I can't remember. But I do remember seeing it for
we saw in the theater. I don't know if you guys came, but I distinctly remember seeing in the theater. Like, I remember sitting next to Stephanie watching it and like laughing like a crazy person, and she was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, this movie's terrible."
It's funny though.
It's hilarious.
This movie is hilarious.
Yeah,
this movie
you have to get the underlying satire of it.
Satire of it, yeah.
But yeah. I will give so much credit to Guinevere Turner and Mary Harron for making it funnier and for giving it some sort of humanity, because apparently this book, and Billy, you were talking about this before we started, that this book is difficult to read because it's so violent, it's so like nihilistic, misogynistic. This book, they were actually super afraid to actually make this movie. But because of Mary and Guinevere, who co-wrote the screenplay, they were able to kind of move through that a little bit better. And that's why when you watch it, you kind of like oddly not empathize with Patrick Bateman, but like it's interesting. It's like a weird like character story of someone like totally losing their mind as like as the world goes by. It's really interesting. So I credit them with us being able to even see it as a black comedy, because without them, it would have just been some brutalist, like it would probably be like Terrifier 3. Like at this point, like it would just be nonsense to just kill people for no reason. But this movie has interesting like story, like, and it's violent sometimes. That's the thing about
it. And it's also kind of it's like a interesting take on the whole 80s yuppie culture, right? Like it's just like the whole thing, like they keep like one of the main things, like we'll get into it, right? But like, remember, they keep confusing everyone for everyone else because everyone's just so obsessed with the consumerism culture. Everyone's dressed the same. Everyone's obsessed with the designers or whatever. So it's kind of crazy in that.
And they actually, it also shows how selfish everybody is. It's like, and so, and how narcissistic everybody is, that they don't remember who they're even talking to. They're just going to call you whoever. And then the best is that he doesn't even correct Jared Leto's character just because like, it's like, does he care? Or he's just like, well, I want to fit in so bad that I don't care that he calls me Marcus. Like, because like, remember he's in the limo and he's trying to listen to
Robert Palmer,
the new Robert Palmer tape, but everyone keeps buzzing in his ear.
the fucking the soundtrack and the albums that they use that he like
Amazing.
wants to be obsessed with is amazing.
Yeah.
And he's like listening to the Walkman in she's trying to talk to him, and she says something, and he's like, well, I want to fit in, that's why I go.
Yeah.
She said,
You
why
know?
don't you just quit that job? You hate it, blah, blah. And he's like, I want to fit in.
He takes the headphones off and then he just puts it back on. Yeah. Apparently, speaking of the music, I read on I was reading trivia on this. They said the single biggest cost for the film was the rights to the music they used in it, which I could see.
Huey Lewis in the News, Whitney Houston, Robert Palmer, Phil Collins. It was quite unbelievable the amount of music that was in this movie. I was blown away by that, and his music monologues are fucking
they're the best,
amazing. You like,
but that's what's so crazy. The scene with the two prostitutes, and he's talking, and like they're
what the fuck's wrong with this guy?
They're just like going with it and like going in the thing, and he's still going through the process of talking about the music. And I feel like he needs to talk about the music right before he does his bad shit. Like it's kind of like his like therapy of being like, I'm about to transform over from being like this guy to the psycho. Like, and I have to like obsess with the, like he was like talking about Whitney Houston.
No, Jen
he's about to like,
the first one he was talking about Phil Collins, right? The first time he was with them. Yeah.
But then he was talking with the second girls.
It's like, it's a monogamy
girlfriend or something like
about. Oh yeah. And then she starts laughing at him about liking Whitney Houston.
Yeah. And then he kills her.
Fucking wasted. Yeah.
Well, he drugged her.
Does he stab her?
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Stabs her.
While he's going down on her.
Yeah.
And the other girl tries to get away, and that's when he chases her all day.
That's when you start seeing like all the people who are dead.
Yeah. I felt bad for her. Like the actress who played that sex worker that
she got in the car again
street
after he destroyed her with a hanger.
But
whatever he did with her.
But the way she acted, what she did, like it was interesting because she saw him. Like, there were shots where she was looking at him and being like, it was interesting, her take on the whole thing, because she also wasn't rich, right? So like all these other people are like these yuppie like maniacs, and she's not, obviously, right? So sees something's wrong with this guy, but she's also oddly connected because she makes these like weird like stares at him.
She saw him drugging the wine.
Did she?
Yeah,
she does
stare right at him.
Well, then he's like, also, she's like, this is a nice apartment you have. How much do you pay for it? And he's like, well, actually, that's none of your business. Like, and that's where he's like, it's a very fine Chardonnay you're not drinking.
Yeah.
He's just so obsessed with like he wants everyone to think what he has is the best, and if anyone questions it, like that's where those homicidal tendencies come in. Like you see it throughout, right? The fucking business cards. Like that's where he gets in the Paul Allen thing. Where like, let's see Paul Allen's card. Like that scene with the business cards is like one of the best ones in it, right? Like he's just like, and
it's so
one
good.
of my favorite parts about Christian Bale, and obviously the makeup people did a good part about it too. But like the look on his face where you see his anxiety coming in, where like what he has is not the best, and he has that like sheen of sweat on his face, and you can just like he plays it so well that like you could see he's like on the verge of having a panic attack because people don't think what he has is like the best thing, like it's kind of crazy when you see that.
And all the business cards look the same.
Exactly.
That's what's the greatest part of it.
It's all
he's like, look at that off-white color. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Bone.
It's such a great scene.
They're like, nice coloring. He's like, that's something that's called bone, and the lettering something called Cillian rail. And then then they start like then someone else shows it. He's like, pale nimbus white, and he's like, I can't believe that Bryce prefers Van Patten's card to mine. And he's instantly getting like angry. It's fucking like, this guy's crazy.
And then he's like, you're right, because when he says Paul Allen, he's like, let's see Paul Allen's card. Like
and he's like holding it. He's like, oh my God, it even has a watermark.
Like, oh God. And that doofus that's next to him is like what's wrong? He's like, and then his card is out of hand. Like, and everyone's freaks out at that one. you remember business cards? I had some and I never used them now. Like,
Yeah, they don't.
ever.
Someone gave me one at a
cards
conference last week.
and
I was like, "What is this?"
I have them because older people still use them,
Yeah.
even though I'm like, can I just use your phone? They're like, what? I was like, I'll just put my information into your phone or scan this
exactly.
QR code on my phone. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, I have a QR code that just goes to my information. They're like, don't you just have a business card? I'm like, fuck, now I got to get business cards because you really want a physical card. What are you going to do with it? It's going to go in your pocket. You're never going to see it again. Like,
Exactly.
I had a business card for USC, and like when I got promoted, I got the original box that had my old title on it, and I'm like, well, now I need new ones. Like it took that
Yeah.
long. I was like, come
but-
on. I was
now
like,
you
now I
can
have
go
to
to
get new ones.
Vistaprint and get like 250 of them for like $10.
Oh,
These guys were
Vistaprint.
paying like these guys were paying fucking hundreds of dollars for business cards.
Raised
in the
lettering,
80s,
like
dude.
all
Oh,
their
yeah.
shit is ridiculous.
Because I remember having to get business cards from my grandfather when he, when I was a kid and like he owned the electrical company. I remember going to go get business cards and how big of a deal it was. It was like a huge thing. Oh, they're ready. Like, oh, okay. Like,
Yes.
what the-
Oh my god! Could I
But
just
that
say,
scene
like,
was
yeah.
crazy. And like he then got mad and he was gonna kill the guy and choke him, and the guy thought he was gay.
And he
Oh,
kissed
like
his hand, and he's
and
washing his hand with the gloves on.
Yeah,
He
What a
loses his
scene.
mind. I mean, I think like what's interesting is first of all, this movie has some of the greatest quotes. Like
Oh my
even
God.
just off, like just not even like from Patrick Bateman, from like Justin Theroux or some of the other guys. Like Justin Theroux's like they go to that club and he's like, they don't have a good bathroom to do coke in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember that's like you don't realize what you're watching at first, right? Because it starts out with all these yuppies, and then the first thing you get is where like they go to that bar, and
Yeah.
she's like, "These chick tickets are no good. It's a cash bar," and he's like, "I fucking want to stab you to death and play with your blood," and you're like, "Whoa, what?" Like, and you're
Did
like,
he do that?
No one hears
So
him.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
I was like, did she not hear him, or is that in his head and we're seeing it because he was looking at the mirror?
"Well, that's
And
that's
we
the
only
biggest
saw the
question
mirror.
throughout, right?
I
Like,
think
what
he
is
said
real
that.
and what's not."
Yeah, because I was like, are we in like a Fight Club kind of thing
Mm.
where like we see it as
Mhm.
the people, the onlookers, but nobody else is actually hearing what he's saying? Like,
Yeah.
I
know.
think,
That's
yeah,
because
go
what he
ahead.
said to that the waiter when he's like, if you ask, like, it's like, oh, do you want to see the specials? And he's like,
not if you want to keep your spleen.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and then he's like, he's eating with Paul Allen, and Paul Allen's wasted, and he's like, "Do you know I'm utterly insane? I like to dissect girls," and like,
Yeah.
he just keeps like drinking and laughing, and he's like, "Oh, another martini, Paul!" Like,
Yeah, again, that's the best. Like, I love that part. Like that part is
But that
so
goes back-
funny.
That goes into like the fact that like none of them actually care about each other, right? Like they're just like, I don't care what you're saying. Like you're taking me out to eat, and like I think you're Marcus anyway. So like, why the fuck
doesn't matter. Yeah,
do I
And
care
that's-
about you?
That's
you
the
know?
thing. That's why I think all of this happened. I think he said all that shit. I think that because there's just
I almost
something.
don't.
well, that's the big debate at the center, right? Because like they kept that open ended on purpose. They said where it's like that's the big question. Like, is this that he did all this, and the yuppie culture is so focused on themselves and not caring about external that no one knows, or is he just fucking nuts and this is all in his head, right? Like, and I could see the argument both ways, and I think I like how they kept it open ended because I think like it kind of makes you think, and I've gone back and forth on it, right? Like I
Yeah.
probably still straddle the line, you know?
I would be so disappointed if it was just like in his head because like I would then that's such a cop out because in Fight Club he did those things. He just was he disassociated and had a whole other like idea
Second
of like
personality,
someone
yeah.
else doing
Sure.
it. Right. Kind of like with Drop Dead Fred, where like she did those things. Like if you ever watched Drop Dead Fred, like it's the same
Yeah.
thing. Like he did these things, I believe, because it's like if you ever watched that stupid show, the Newhart show, like with Bob Newhart, the whole series ended at a series
It's a
finale.
dream.
Spoilers for Newhart. Yeah. He wakes up. He's like, oh, I had this weird dream for
Yeah.
8 seasons.
But I know you
or
don't
whatever
like
it
that.
is. Like, that's bullshit. Like,
But see,
But like,
I lean towards that this is all in his head because if you think about the movie, the things get increasingly ridiculous. Like, who's the first person we see him kill is the homeless guy. You're like, okay, like that could happen, right?
and he was from
I was
Oz.
really
That guy was
upset
from
about
the
the
show
dog.
Oz.
Right.
And
yeah,
the
he's
dog.
like,
I forgot that he
oh, he
stomped the
stomps the
dog.
shit out of the dog. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah.
difficult to watch.
Yeah, he kills that guy, but then as it goes on, like it gets to the point where like when the prostitutes, whatever, like and everything are like, okay, like this is kind of crazy. He kills Paul Allen, like it's kind of nuts. And then like, he's literally walking through the lobby with the body, like with a trail of blood behind it.
Yeah.
And he runs into Lewis and he's like, oh my God. And he's like, and you're like, oh, is he gonna call him? And he's like, where did you get that overnight bag? Like, but then it gets more and more ridiculous as it goes on. Like the chainsaw chasing, he throws the chainsaw down the thing.
Yeah, like nobody else is in the apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
the ATM's like feed me a stray cat, and he goes to do that, and then he shoots the woman, and then remember where there's literally a point where the cops are there, and he's shooting, and the cars blow up, and he looks at the gun like, what the fuck? And so like that's where it's like, is this actually happening, or is he just like having like a mental breakdown, right?
And then then you could argue like when she's looking at the journal, like or his calendar,
and
that
it's
basically
all the
has
things
nothing.
he did.
Yeah,
and it's like, but is that just in his head? Because he really doesn't work. Like, doesn't he like work at a place that's his dad or his grandfather or somebody?
And
like,
everyone has the
like,
same title. That's what you see the business cards. Everyone has the same exact title.
But
so he doesn't really have to work.
But that's the materialism of the 80s, right?
Yeah.
He could be dragging a body through the hallway.
No one cares.
And no one cares. And also, it's a commentary on like, look at him, right? If he was some working class, like moron, like some working class person, he would never get away with this in a movie or whatever, right? Because we trust him, or the world trusts him, because he's like traditionally handsome person, right? Like he's really good looking, he's very rich, he lives in like a very rich building, he has this.
They don't ask questions.
Right. They're not going to ask questions. It's the same bullshit. Like when we hear about serial killers in real life, and it's like, oh, he was so quiet, he was a nice guy, he was a handsome person. It's just like, but he killed like 500 people. Like, how does he get away with that, right? How does anyone get away with that? It's because we don't look to that person thinking that he would do that. Like he's just like, okay, maybe he's walking on the street in the beginning of the movie, and then he sees that woman on the corner, and then the next scene he's in the dry cleaners, like with the bed sheets. He murders that woman. He kills her.
Yeah,
she's dead, right? But she didn't not trust him. She didn't find him dangerous because he's just like this like good looking guy. Yeah, in a suit.
It's
like,
just funny that he's like yelling at the
oh my God, that scene is so ridiculous.
Like, why even bring the sheets there?
Kill you.
Holding a cigar.
And you see
holding
how, like,
a cigar.
And you see how fast he like stops.
Yeah.
When that woman shows up. Is
that
the woman
she's
that
like,
comes
oh, what
at
are
the end?
those? Oh, it's cranberry juice, cran apple.
There's a cran apple. I gotta go. I gotta go to a lunch meeting at blah blah. Isn't that Uptown? There's another one.
Yeah. I love how he drops things. Like, I have a lunch meeting with Cliff Huxtable in 15 minutes of the Four Seasons.
That was crazy. And now knowing everything about Cosby, that was fucking scary to hear. Like Patrick Bateman's gonna go meet with Cliff Huxtable. Okay.
Let's not forget about the fact we talk about how great Christian Bale is. Willem Dafoe is also great in this movie. I mean, I love Willem Dafoe most days, and it's a small part, but he's so good. Like,
when is he not playing a cop, dude? I feel like he plays cops a lot.
He does a lot. Yeah. Boondock Saints, he's great.
Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice. Yeah.
But yeah, that part was amazing. And I was thinking when I was watching him in the beginning of the movie do his skin routine and the narration of the skin routine,
it's so
I was
good.
like, Patrick Bateman in 2024, I feel like Patrick Bateman in 2000 invented the content idea of like, get ready with me and here's my morning routine. Because if you watch any YouTube channel now where it's like, here's my morning routine, get ready with me, here's my they're doing what Patrick Bateman is doing, like narrating the products and how they use it and everything. It's literally
but he's not gonna, they're just missing the part where he's like, I simply am not there.
That
pulls
was
the fucking thing up.
Yeah,
I love that part. That's where you see like, wow, this guy's all right. Something's off with this guy, and then it just keeps going.
Yeah.
Those internal monologues, like one of my favorite parts, and like I think one of the best acting parts of Christian Bale, because he fucking nails all those. Like, was it where they go to where like the first time you see him at a restaurant, he's like, I'm on the verge of tears when we get to a spas because I feel like we won't have a good table.
Spas.
Yeah, that's what it is. He's like, but we do, and relief washes over me in an awesome wave.
Like,
dude, this guy's nuts.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to talk about every person there, and that he's fucking the best friend.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh
he's
my
like,
God.
Bryce is the only interesting person I know.
Yeah.
Like, and then they have those like hipsters there, and they're like, "Hey, man, that affects us." And he's like, "What about the things in Sri Lanka, honey, where the
That was
Sikhs are killing tons of Arabs?" Like, they have no idea what he's talking about. Like,
yeah, exactly. And then he puts a whole speech on, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's just
No.
nonsense.
yeah,
They're
you
talking
even
about
the beginning where he's like, "You want me to fry up some potato camp?" He's like, "I saw that motherfucker spinning a menorah." He's like, "It's actually a dreidel." And then they're like, "Oh, cooler with the anti-Semitic." Like, he's just trying to be like he's better than everyone, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like, and it's the '80s culture, right? Like,
yeah,
where like you know, and I feel like, look, like it's something that's inherent in a lot of people, right? Like, where you want to feel like what you're doing. Whether people want to admit it all the time or not, you want to feel that like what you're thinking or what you're doing may be like better than someone else's thoughts. In the '80s, that was just amplified, and then this is taking that to the extreme with the consumerism and everything. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Now it makes a lot of sense why the '90s were the way they were. Like because
fuck
like
yeah, dude. It's
it's
like a
like when you see
pushback.
this.
But what about
Yeah.
like the relationship with him and his fiance? Like he's
Oh,
like,
it's so
I'm
weird.
not really sure what's going on. She gets like bugged out when he decides it's like it's over. We haven't even like talked.
Yeah.
Like you're fucking someone else. I'm fucking like she didn't
Yeah.
care because she
He's
just
like-
wanted his name.
I like when
Like-
he's like, "You're not very important to me."
Oh my god,
Yeah.
it's so like it's so sociopathic, right?
Well,
And
what's
I-
crazy
yeah.
is that he wouldn't even kill her.
Nope.
Right?
No.
Like there's even and then like even his secretary, he's like, you need
That
to
was an
leave.
interesting scene.
She's
That
like,
was
I don't want to
interesting.
get bruised. It's like, whoa.
That was a weird. That
Yeah.
was I was wondering where that
Well,
came in, but yeah. But that was he.
I thought there was so many different times in that where he, you know, he brings out the duct tape, but then she starts to say good things, so he starts to care about her. So he puts it, not even care about her, but he doesn't. She doesn't piss him off, and she
Yeah.
doesn't say anything offensive until that one time, and then that's when he brings the fucking gun out.
The nail
which is
gun, right?
the nail gun is the craziest thing
Yeah.
because like it's so big, and I'm like, is he really gonna do this? I'm
The
like,
best. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then she's like, "Oh, do you have a fiance?" I'm like, "Why wouldn't you know this? Like, you're his
She's his
secretary.
secretary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She would know. I like
She would
when
know."
he takes the duct tape out and she sees it. She's like, "Well, what is that?" He's like, "Duct tape." To
I need it
tape
for
stuff.
taping
To
something.
tape stuff.
Saving something. It's like,
Yeah,
what are you talking?
but
I
then
love the
she, I
scene,
mean,
like-
she knows something's wrong with him.
Yeah, she's not. Yeah,
Oh,
she, and
yeah.
that's where
And
then
that's why
she
she
goes and
goes
looks
in
in
the
the
drawer.
book later. Yep. Yep.
exactly.
She
Exactly.
everyone in this movie was great. Reese Witherspoon was really good in this movie. Like
She
her
was, yeah.
part was perfect. She was like the Legally Blonde of this movie. Like it was like her character left Harvard or Yale, where if in Legally Blonde, ended up in New York and like fell in love with Patrick Bateman. And I was just like, let's do this. Like
Yeah, I
it was
love,
so weird.
I love where he's breaking up with her, like the part you said not so important. He's like, I know my behavior's been a bit erratic lately. Like,
He said something that I had to write down. He says, oh my God. He goes, my need to engage in homicidal behavior on a massive scale cannot be corrected, but I have no other way to fulfill my needs. That's what he
Yeah.
tells her.
And again,
she
she's
just
not
doesn't hear it.
listening.
Him. Yeah.
But
She's
that's
like,
why
whatever.
it's such a great film because like is he saying that out loud?
it was in his head.
100. No,
Or is it
I
in
think
his
he
head?
said that out loud. These
And
no
people
one
just
is
not
paying
paying
attention
attention.
to
And
people.
you're thinking that she just doesn't give a fuck
yeah,
what he's saying.
absolutely.
The
Why-
mo-
I,
that
I don't
happens with the
find that to
model
be
he
surprising.
bangs too, where she's like, "What do you do?" He's like, "Well, I'm into murders and executions mostly." And she's like, "How
Yeah.
do you like murders and how do you like mergers and acquisitions? Because most people
Yeah.
I know that are in that don't like it."
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, and then he's playing with
exactly.
her hair in the next scene and puts in his
Oh,
pocket.
Yeah.
I mean,
her
Willem
head's in
Dafoe.
his
Yeah,
freezer
that was
later.
sick.
Yeah. I mean, Willem Dafoe comes to interview him after he murders Paul Allen, which we have to talk about that. That's one of the most famous
What's
scenes
the
in the whole
topic
movie.
of conversation?
Oh, yeah. And then he's on the phone and talking to no one because he just picked up the phone to say that he was doing something. And he hangs up when Willem Dafoe says like, oh, that sounded important. What was that about? So he's like, oh, that just what do you say? Just business problems, examining opportunities, exchanging rumors, spreading gossip. Like it's all general
Yeah.
garbage.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing there. I mean, it was
Because
like,
he's like, there's definite good and do's and don'ts, good buddy, of wearing a bold striped tie. A bold striped tie requires like, and he goes into that. Like, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it's so fucking vapid and like shallow. Like, there's nothing behind it. You know. Speaking
Yeah.
of that, by the way, this is really interesting. I read this in the trivia. Let me see if I can find this here, where it said, Looking for a way to create the character of Patrick Bateman, Christian Bale stumbled onto a Tom Cruise appearance on The Late Show with David Letterman. According to co-writer and director Mary Herron, Bale saw Cruise in this very intense friendliness with nothing behind the eyes, and Bale subsequently based the character of Bateman on that. Interestingly, Tom Cruise is actually featured in the novel. He lives in the same apartment complex as Bateman, who meets him in an elevator and gets the name of cocktail wrong, calling it bartender.
What?
Yeah, in the book, I remember that now. He's like, yeah, you were great in that movie Bartender.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's
but
crazy.
Yeah, he based it on like Tom Cruise having nothing behind the eyes, which we can all see that, right?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is crazy. There's also another movie that came out in 1989. I will say, I don't. Go ahead, Manny. Go ahead.
I don't know if we're gonna beep this out, but I used to work with a bunch of Scientologists, and none of them had anything behind the eyes. Like it was like weird. Like they all had a look. They all had a look, and it was like, holy shit! Like they all looked the same. After their thing where they have to recharge or whatever,
hold the cans.
Like, yeah, it was crazy. I saw the machine.
Not like hold the cans like in that way, right? Like in a bad way.
They hold like this like machine that like you're supposed to like.
Yeah.
It was basically confession.
It does
and you
nothing.
You could only be done after it beams, and sometimes it took like 4 days or whatever. It was crazy. Anyways,
is it like that arcade thing that you hold and it shocks you?
Basically.
Yes.
Basically.
Billy, shit. That's what it fucking looks like.
Yeah. I mean, if you come on Hollywood, if you walk down Hollywood Boulevard, you could see like a bunch of them, like a bunch of Scientology churches, and people, I don't know if they do it anymore. For a little bit, they would stand outside and try to get people to come in. And then I feel like they stopped doing that because people just yelled at them. They were just yelling at them, like being like, run away.
There's a law against that now too.
Yeah.
In certain spots. Yeah.
So in 1989, there was a movie starring Nicolas Cage and Jennifer Beals called Vampire's Kiss. And in that movie, it's a black comedy horror film where
Are you saying is it dark comedy, not black comedy?
Well, there's black comedy and dark comedy, I think.
No,
black comedy doesn't that normally.
Yeah, I think they're interchangeable.
Yeah.
When you say black comedy, I feel like you're like talking about like Big Mama's House or something like.
No, Soul Plane.
It's
not. It's
wow.
I feel like they're interchangeable phases.
Well, no, I'm just saying like that's like I got it.
Wow, right. I love Pete.
So anyway, in this movie, Nicolas Cage plays a New York City literary agent and a narcissistic yuppie with little in his life but work and one-night stands and frequent appointments with his therapist, right? So then as what happens is he sort of gets bitten by a bat, and then he sort of starts to change into a bat, and he ends up murdering a bunch of people as well, and at the end like he's like losing his mind and he dies. So when I saw this and I think of that movie and this, it's like kind of the same premise. It's like someone who's like losing their minds is getting violent and more violent as it goes on. They're super rich. They're like just in this whole crazy yuppie culture. And it kind of goes the same route, except in this movie, he doesn't die. Right. And then I was thinking of our episode, Manny, on Big and how the kid in Big probably grows up to be Patrick Bateman because like he just sees everything. It's like, oh, we could just do this. I have an apartment still. It doesn't matter. And then he goes back to middle school after he experiences the real world and everything out there. And he becomes a maniac afterwards. So, but yeah, there's a lot of like things. If you've ever read the book Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky,
great movie.
It's
he wants to murder the old lady, just see what it feels like.
That's like this. Like it's kind of like this, and you're with the murderer the whole time. All the narration is in it. It's really interesting.
Only he doesn't feel remorse here, right?
Zero. Yeah, zero remorse in this movie
because he's a clearly psychopath, sociopath. So
yeah,
I'm looking at this is funny. So I mentioned this to you, Pika, before we started, but I'm looking at this thing I read about trivia here. So Manny, I don't know if you know this, but apparently, when they first started talking about this, the director Mary Herron wanted to make it with Christian Bale as their chosen lead. But the studio actually balked at the idea originally because they didn't think he was famous enough for the part, and they wanted Leonardo DiCaprio to play the role with Oliver Stone directing the movie. So that would have been a much different fucking movie,
Much
right?
different movie. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So-
It would imagine that. He did Scarface, right? Oliver Stone.
Did he do? Oh, Oliver. No, he did Scarf. Was Scarf? No, I don't think that was Oliver. That was Brian De Palma.
Okay.
Oliver Stone did.
Like Platoon and Natural Born Killers and stuff like Wall Street.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, well, exactly. So it would have been
It's pretty interesting.
much
that,
different movie.
that
Yeah.
Bale then becomes Bruce Wayne, who's also
yeah.
a serial killer.
Essentially, yes, right? No, Batman doesn't kill people on purpose, Manny. But it's also
Who has
apparently
a problem with rage?
right?
Yeah.
Millionaire
my
When I
God.
saw those movies, I was like, he's basically Patrick Bateman, right? Because like if you ever hear, like that's the other thing, like if you hear Christian Bale talk, like he has a thick Welsh accent, and that's another piece of trivia I read that like he's like a method actor because he's nuts, and apparently like he spoke in that American accent the whole time, and when the movie wrapped, he like spoke in his regular accent, and people thought that his regular accent was a fake accent, and he was like starting to work on another movie.
Really?
Wow.
That's crazy.
Wow.
That's nuts. I don't think I've ever heard him speak normally.
Yeah.
I have. It's
Oh
really
yeah,
it's shocking.
It's crazy. Yeah, if you see
Really?
it, it's like when he wins awards and it accepts it, like you're like, holy fuck, that's his voice, right? Like Jesus.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, he was
It's
in
kind of
Newsies.
nuts. Oh, great
Oh
movie.
my
Great
God.
movie, dude.
Some of
Great fucking movie.
this trivia is so hilarious.
How
Like,
about this? The face mask peel only took one take. That's an interesting piece
What?
of trivia.
Really?
Yeah,
what? Wow, he was able to
Yeah.
pull that face mask off in one take like that?
one take. Yep.
Damn. That takes practice. That's unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable. I can't believe he
Dude,
did
the
that.
scene where he like looked in the mirror and he's like flexing and stuff is like it's
Oh.
just such a
Those sex
classic
scenes are
scene.
so stupid.
That's
They're
another one
amazing.
here.
They're
It
so
says
ridiculous.
Patrick Bateman watching himself have sex in the mirror was an on-set idea. It was not scripted, and they decided in the moment that his obsessive flexing in the mirror would kind of show how narcissistic he was.
Oh,
Bale took the
100%.
idea and ran with it.
And ran with it. Christian Bale's a maniac. Dude, the scene in that scene before that, when he takes the video camera out and he tells the one girl to start dancing like randomly.
And she,
And
That's
it's
what
like,
he's talking about Phil Collins.
Yeah, he's talking about Phil
it's like,
Collins.
I
and
want
then-
you to start dancing, and then she's like,
Yeah.
I want you to bend over.
yeah,
Don't
he's
just
like,
look at it. Eat
eat
it.
it.
Yeah.
That was the greatest line.
That's like the transition, right? He's
Yeah.
like talking about Phil Collins, and he's like, "Don't just stare at it, eat it," and like then he jumps into it.
Oh
Yeah.
God, that
But
was
then,
so
like, even
funny.
in when she's in the bathroom and he's like, she's just totally fine being there. He's like, I want you to clean your vagina, but bend over. Like, it's crazy.
and
Yeah,
he's
that's so
laughing.
crazy.
He's like like water on
Yeah,
the
he's
back.
like,
Throwing water, and he answers the phone.
Oh
Wait,
my God.
But like, it was crazy. Like, then when he sees her again and she's like, yeah, my friends told me to get a lawyer.
Yeah.
Like, and he's like writing her a check and he's got cash.
Waves the money.
Because
Yeah.
like all you see is that he's got hangers, and then it cuts, and then they leave. Like he didn't want to kill them. Then
No, he just wanted to hurt them.
he just wanted to hurt them. So that was like right before he really went on
Yeah.
this.
And well, he had already killed some people before that. This just like was like a weird like non-killing scene, I guess. But because he murdered that woman that he saw on the street. Like he
Yes.
murdered
Yes.
that person.
That's
And
the
he
first
murdered
person
the homeless
you
guy.
don't see it, but the homeless guy's the first one you see on camera,
Yeah.
and then
That-
the hookers are next. Yeah, and then it's where he's like hurting them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That
it's
was
interesting because he's definitely clearly like he gets off on people's pain. Like remember when he's like even like working out while watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you're like, what the fuck
was
dude?
that?
He's
During
like,
that.
crunches and he's like, oh, with the
So,
chest. So I was like, Jesus.
So
That's
apparently,
nuts.
according to the trivia, during his big chainsaw scene, oh, that was the chainsaw scene. Oh, that was another chainsaw scene. I'm
Where
sorry.
he was butt naked and had no problem with it at all. He just had a sock on his junk and sneakers
Yeah, he's
on.
just walking around with a sock on his penis on the set. Wait,
I mean, if I was
Oh,
that
really?
jacked, I would never wear clothes ever. Like,
I want to know. This is that scene where he is chasing Christy through the hallways with the chainsaw, right? Part of me thought, and this is, I guess, because of us doing this podcast, I couldn't stop but think, I'm like, okay, Christian Bale's character, Patrick Bateman, had the wherewithal to put shoes on before he walked out.
maybe he just
Yes.
fucks with shoes on.
Bruce
knows?
Willis
Who knows?
could not put his shoes back on in Die Hard. Like he was
No.
like, time to run out without shoes. Like, and the whole time he's without shoes and socks. But Patrick Bateman's like, gotta put my Jordans on before I go run after this girl down the
Exactly.
hallway. Like, I was like, come on. That was so weird.
that's-
Oh my god, that was so weird. That was so weird. Yeah,
Dude, one of
I
my
don't
favorite
know.
parts of this movie is just like I talked about before, where what I feel is the climax of the movie, right? Where like everything is spiraling out of control. He's the cat at the ATM. It kind of starts it, and then everything goes nuts from there. And then you get to that point where he's in his office doing the monologue where he calls his lawyer, and like
So
once
good.
again, like I said, like the sheen of sweat on his face,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Tonight I just had to kill a lot of people." Like,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. He's like,
Christian
yeah.
Bale is amazing there. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
and
that
I'm
was-
reading
that was
here,
my favorite
apparently
scene.
that took 15 takes, but I could see that because apparently it says that Bale's energy was better and better the more drained he got. So it said what's in the film is one of the last takes he performed, because as he got more and more exhausted, it was just more like it felt more real.
Wow.
Okay, that's
Bro.
crazy.
To block the three-way sex scene with two prostitutes, co-writer and director Mary Harron and Christian Bale watched X-rated tapes. In her commentary, Harron says Bale made stick figure drawings of the positions he thought would work best.
Oh, my god, I love it. And then he's like in the mirror, he's like,
I love that they're like they had to watch this
Uh.
for research, and it's like, oh, let's sit and watch this. It's
Yo,
what's the
Yeah.
video he's watching where he's calling Carruthers' girlfriend? He's like, "Pumpkin, you're dating a dickweed. You're dating a tumbling dickweed." While he's looking at a thing of called Inside Lydia's Ass.
yeah.
like, yes, yes.
And she's like, "Stop calling me Pumpkin."
Oh my god. I thought she was
She
gonna
was
kill
so
herself.
drugged out all the time. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
It seemed like that's what they were leaning towards, like when he left her for Easter, when she's like, oh, if I don't see you after Easter or before Easter or whatever, have a good one or something. And I was like, oh, she's gonna off herself. But I forgot.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah, I guess that maybe it's in the book. I have no idea, but I don't know.
I think it may be. Yeah, but it's funny though how like one of the things that I find like just shows how like, because once again we talk about the yuppie culture, right? Like this is satirizing that, but like shows how like he's almost like, obviously he's psychopathic, but it's almost like OCD too, where every time he goes to a restaurant, he's referencing like reviews. Like when he goes to there, he's like, "Hey, we're gonna go to Dorsia. Remember to convince her to go out." And then they're at
Dorsia.
Barcadia, and she like falls down. And he's like, "You're gonna have the blah blah blah." Someone called it a playful little dish, and then she passes out, and he just puts his arm on the table, and he's like looking around, trying to feel cool. Or when he goes out with Paul Allen, he's like, "I see they've omitted the pork loin with lime jelly." Like he's just obsessed with like all the status of like reading these reviews, like restaurant reviews, and he needs to go have it and do it. Like, and
Yeah.
it's like, it's crazy, right?
I love that scene because the Mexican restaurant they went to was
The guy with the thing around his neck, and he's like, "Is that Ivana Trump?" And then I wonder, I'm
Yeah.
like, wait. To me, I'm like, I was watching again yesterday, and I was like, did he do that because it's in his head, or is he trying to convince Paul Allen to stay
I think that's
because
what
it might
is.
be her?
yeah,
Yeah.
because Paul wanted to leave because he was like, this place is empty.
First
and
of
stuff
all,
like that.
he had a
Yeah.
reservation and the original one.
No one's there. Yeah. Oh, it's great.
Oh, he's like, we could go to Dorsia. And he's like, I could.
No
I
one
could
goes
get
there
us- he's
anymore.
like, no one goes to Dorsia anymore.
I love when speaking of Dorsia, I love when he calls Dorsia and like they just fucking laugh at him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you
yeah,
can see it hits
and
his
he gets
ego.
so fucking pissed.
yeah.
That's when he
Yeah.
kills the homeless guy that night, right?
That's
the
right.
first-
Yeah.
That's where it is. Because then he takes her out to Barcadia, and then
Yeah.
he kills the homeless guy afterwards. So it's like
Yeah.
it's almost like people make him feel shitty or inadequate or less than,
That's-
and then he has to take it out by fucking killing someone.
Yes.
Dude, I love that he listens to that song "Lady in Red."
Yes, he's listening to that the first time that Willem Dafoe comes, right? Yeah.
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 He's like, "Tell him I'm at lunch. It's at Patrick's."
And what
10:30.
about-
I think he
but
knows you're here.
Even with Willem Dafoe's character, where he's like, they have dinner together, and
At
like,
Smith and Walensky.
yeah, and does William Dafoe's character just want to be liked by him? Because he's like, he's not really like interviewing him anymore,
No.
and he's just like, oh yeah, you were at this thing with him.
He's
You know, like-
yeah.
They
He's
said
like
he
giving
was.
his own
Yeah.
alibi. He's like,
And
oh,
once
yeah,
again,
you
he's
were
the
with him.
sweating, like looks like he's gonna have a panic attack. Like the
Yeah.
acting
He's
from
like, I'm
him is
caught.
like just fucking top notch. And that was the other interesting trivia I saw, that people told him this would be career suicide. And in my opinion, I think it's the opposite, where this kind of set him on the career path, because people just saw like what a amazing actor he was. Like there's so many great monologues in this. His the way he emotes things, like he's just fucking so good. Like, and this is like, to me, this is him putting his fucking flag in the ground. It's like, yo, I'm an Oscar-worthy actor. And to your point, Pico, the fact that he wasn't nominated for this is a motherfucking travesty. Like, it's obscenely ridiculous.
Before we hit record, before we like started recording, I said that I was like, he was robbed of an Oscar, and if we look at what was nominated, like the nominations of that year, it's to me such a horrible fuck up, in my opinion, because he should have won. The nominees, I mean, were Russell Crowe for Gladiator, Harvey Bardem for Before Night Falls, Tom Hanks for Castaway, Ed Harris for Pollock, and Jeffrey Rush for Quills, and Russell Crowe won for Gladiator. Now, even inside that category, but inside that category, I still would have gave Ed Harris the Oscar for Pollock, because it's a way better movie. Gladiator is a good movie, but it's just like Russell Crowe just had to be like, I mean, there's not much, in my opinion, to his part.
Yeah, that's right. He just had to be like, "Are you not entertained?" Like,
entertained. I'm Australian.
He didn't embody a psychopath or like.
No.
Yeah.
And he didn't. And I never saw Quills, but what Jeffrey Rush is great. Give him an Oscar. Like, it just made no sense to me that Christian Bale would not get a nomination. But then again, you're not going to get a nomination for a movie like this. Though.
No, it was.
I mean, he eventually got it.
He did. I think a lot of people did. Honestly, I think a lot of people didn't get this movie. Like, I think people were turned off by the violence, or that's all they focused on was like, this is just like, a horror movie. Like, I think people miss the satire, taking the piss out of the 80s culture. This is basically like take Wall Street and turn it on its head and like take the piss out of that, right? And I think people had trouble wrapping their head around that because of the violence, right? But that's why I think Mary Harron did a good job, because like I said, the book like goes way too far. Like there's a scene in the book where he literally goes to the Central Park Zoo, and he goes in and there's like a 5-year-old child, and he fucking stabs the kid a couple times. And then as the kid's like, people don't see the kid like get stabbed, but then he's bleeding out. He comes in and he goes, "Don't worry, guys, I'm a doctor." And he just holds the kid in his hands just to fucking watch him die. Like, it's a lot fucking darker. Like, whereas I think they did a good job of taking, by the way, Bret Easton Ellis, I don't know if you guys have read his other shit. I've read all the shit. He's a fucking cokehead nut job. So it's like, he basically, he also wrote, there's a movie, the movie Robert Downey Jr. was in the 80s. It was one of the big movies that he was, Less Than Zero. You ever see that with him?
No.
He wrote that too, where all it is about vapid culture where no one has any values and everyone is just doing a lot of drugs and fucking each other and all this stuff. And this was like the natural progression of that. He then progressed after this. We wrote a book about male supermodels where one of them is a serial killer. So like, he's just fucking Bret Easton Ellis is coked out of his fucking mind and like just writes crazy shit. And I thought Mary Harron took the source material and did a good job of making it I will argue this, some people may disagree. The movie, like normally, the book is better than the movie. This movie is 1,000 times better than the book, because the book is filled with gratuitous, unnecessary, uncomfortable violence, because this guy wrote it while he was coked out of his fucking face. Right. And I think Mary Harron took that source material and said, how can we make this a satire in the 80s?
Yeah. And like digestible on
fucking great job.
Yeah. And let's shout out. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Let's shout out Guinevere Turner as well, who also did the co-writing with her. She
the screenplay. Yep.
Yeah.
What about like the scene where he goes back to the apartment and it's all painted and like it's for sale.
It's New York real estate.
Does the woman know that there was murders there?
That to me is where you're like, is it in his head or not? Because
or is it in his head?
Imagine that to me is where you start getting that vibe. Like, did this happen or not? I don't know. Like,
well, she's like, don't come back. like
Yeah.
in a way
Well, that's because
where
she's like, you're weird. Like,
yeah,
or like, because she didn't say like, oh no, doesn't live here anymore. She just said, like, she like didn't even flinch when he's like, oh,
right.
isn't this what's his name's
Paul
apartment?
Allen's
And
place,
she
yeah.
Paul Allen's. And now the thing is she in on it? Does she know? And it just like doesn't matter because it's yuppie culture, and you're like, yo, it's put it under the rug. Like, we painted it. It's fine. Like,
Yeah.
that didn't happen here.
Yeah, man,
know?
it's New York
But
real
like,
estate.
how did they get away with like throwing a fucking chainsaw down into the
Screaming at her.
and screaming, and nobody else came out, and she's knocking on the door.
Well, I think this is also
There's nobody
commentary on.
there.
I mean, we all know the story of like Kitty Genovese who was killed, and everyone, there were all the bystanders that saw her die in New York, right? And so these are the types of things. Like no one wants to go to their door. No one wants to call the cops. We know this. That's why like I was told never to scream help, but to scream fire if something is happening because people are going to react to that and not to help, right? Because like if you hear fire, someone's going to call the cops, like call someone, right? But no one wants to get involved in anything. And especially, look, you're in New York. Let's be honest. New Yorkers don't get involved in things. They just ignore what the hell is happening.
Go about their fucking
nowadays
life,
they just fucking they feel
Record
like
it.
they record it, or they don't want to like, you'll even see it in the recordings where like something's happening and other people are just like kind of like, I don't want to get involved because they don't want to get hurt or fucking in trouble or be part of this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was trained, I was taught as a kid, like living in New York, being like, you mind your own business. You just go about your day, you mind your business, and that's
Dude,
it.
I have a friend of mine who said that he was driving in a car with his dad and he saw a man and a woman having a domestic fight. He jumps out of the car and he goes to like, save the woman from being beat up by her husband. The woman starts punching my friend.
Yeah.
And the father's like, that's why you don't fucking help anybody. Like, like that's why you mind your own business. Like, and that's that you're right. Maybe like nobody came to the door because they're like, we're not dealing with the shit that's
not
happening outside.
Yep.
Right.
Not our problem.
Even though like your friend, like that person, they did the right thing, even though if they got beat up, like they might have helped that day, right? Like it's like, but I feel like especially in New York in the 80s, like that's a totally different place. Like, you know what I mean? It's, and I can believe that they would sell an apartment, get it ready, and get it the fuck on the market because of the commission. You know what I mean? Like, let's be honest. Like, it's just like, oh, who died here? Oh, these are just a bunch of who gives a shit.
All right, so then let's go to the lawyer.
Yes,
I think the lawyer's the same thing. I think the lawyer's the same way. I think the lawyer's just like the way he looked at him. He was just like, bro, I'm telling you that it's all good. Shut the fuck up. You're too rich to go to jail. Like that's how I saw it. Like
that's
I was
how
like,
you look at. See, I think it's more like to the lawyer. To me, just hits on once again the whole idea that everyone is interchangeable. We're like, it's all right. Like, and what drives it home for Patrick Bateman, what makes him feel nuts, is this idea that he wants to be better than people, and it starts with a Paul Allen thing where he's like, oh, where's Cynthia tonight? Because I think his Halberstram. He's like, oh, I believe she's out with Evelyn Williams. And he's like, oh, Evelyn Williams, great ass. Drake takes that dork Patrick Bateman. What a loser. And then like when he tells the confession, like he runs into Carnes at the end and he goes, hey man, what's going, I did that. And he's like, your joke was amusing, but come on, you have one fatal flaw. Bateman's a dork. He's boring, spineless, lightweight. So like it instantly triggers that like inferiority complex for him. And then
does the lawyer think he's someone else? Does he think he's Marcus?
He does, yeah. He thinks he's what does it say?
Did he call him Mr.
He
Smith
keeps calling him, I'm looking at some Davis. That's what he's calling him. He's calling him Davis, whatever the fuck that is, right? Because all these guys look the same wearing Oliver People's glasses and fucking Armani suits, right?
Yeah. They're the same white
thing.
So, and he's like, I've spoken to you
10 days ago. I had dinner with Paul Allen.
Yeah. Like I had dinner with him twice in London.
I don't think he knows who Paul Allen is.
Probably
also
not.
a good point, right?
Yeah.
And then I love
that's a
the
good point.
commentary at the end where he basically says, like, you know, there is no barriers left to cross. Like, you know,
Yeah.
there is no catharsis. Like he basically is like, so that's why I'm ambiguous on what's going on. Like I go back and forth on this. Did he do it or not? Because I think either way, I actually love how they left it open ended because
Yeah.
I think humans' natural desire is to have something explained to them, especially when we're watching movies we want to know or reading a book. Like we want to know. And I love how it's ambiguous because it's open for interpretation. I'm not even kidding you. I've probably watched this movie a fucking 100 times. Like, not even kidding you. Like, and I still go back and forth. I'm like, did he do it or not? Because every time you watch it, you pick up different things. You like interpret things different ways. So, and I love how they kept it open ended at the end. But it just shows that, like, whether he did it or not, as he's giving that last monologue, you see his secretary looking through the book and you're seeing all the crazy shit he did, right? Like you're seeing like a fucking shotgun. By the way, another disturbing scene from the book, and you can cut this, by the way, if not. But at one point, he pours acid just to show you how disturbing this book is. He brings a woman home to the house. I don't remember if it's a hooker or not. He fucking pours acid on her fucking pussy, and then he shoves a PVC pipe up it. And he shoves a hungry rat inside the PVC pipe to eat her from the inside, and then he winds up cutting her in half with a chainsaw. Like, it's graphic. Like, that was one of the points where I had to put it down because I was like, and my description right there is like the basic bare bones of what it is. It gets 1,000 times more graphic. Where I was like, I need to put this book down because I don't like how this is making me feel right now. Like, it's like it's very fucking disturbing, bro.
I don't even know if I should keep that in the show.
I would probably take that out.
Like it was
just
or if I just put a trigger warning in the beginning of this episode, but
it's in the book.
It's in the book. So I mean, it's like not something where I mean, this is stuff that's happened in the book. But okay. So we find that disturbing from the book, and that is quite disturbing.
Yeah.
But look at what's out now. Look at after 2000, right? You have movies like Hostel. You have Saw 1 through a Million. You have Terrifier. 3
have you guys
of
watch
them.
those, by the way? I haven't watched any of them.
I don't want to watch the Terrifier movies.
Human Centipede.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
So like, let's just focus on Terrifier because we understand exactly what it is. Like, even though I'm not going to watch it.
Absolute shit, gratuitous violence.
Gratuitous violence against women and just cutting people in half
for the sake of violence.
Right. It's horrifying to the point where like it's not even a horror movie. Like to me, that's
like
not
Jason
horror.
or Michael Myers like slashing someone. The jump scare. Like it's just fucking gratuitous gore. You know?
Yeah. And that's why, like in this movie, you have Guinevere Turner and Mary Harmon. They really did a great job of like focusing on Patrick Bateman, but it's like the thing that you said that was in the book. It's like they're doing that shit now. Like they're doing those things in movies that are mainstream films. Like Terrifier is a mainstream.
The #1 movie in America 2 weeks ago.
It's the most
really.
It's the most successful unrated film in history, basically at this point.
And
it made like $50-something million, and they made it for what, $1 million?
It's in the theaters,
maybe. Yeah, bro.
I haven't heard about this. Yeah,
Terrifier 1, 2, and 3. We're all in
killer
theaters.
clown. That's not it. It's basically like you know, it was like it was
an
a
entity.
little different.
Yeah.
Take it, and make him a clown that's more like a Jason.
Yeah,
but killing people even more brutally than Jason does. You know, like I've rewatched the Friday the 13th recently. I do a kick every Halloween if I pick a. Last year I did Halloween. This year I did Friday the 13th, and those kills are like
hilarious,
gratuitous, but like funny, right? Like someone gets a spear through them while they're fucking someone because if you fuck, you're getting killed in the movie, right? You know?
Was it in the one where like he's in space? They're in space where he beats the people in the sleeping bag when like they're in a sleeping. Yeah. That shit was funny though. That was ridiculous. Yeah.
I think it was 3 I watched this week where he's the people are trying to fuck in the hammock and he sends a spear through both of them. Like they're ridiculous kills, right?
So
Whereas
stupid.
Terrifier, it sounds like I haven't watched it, but it seems like it's like gratuitous. Like look, we all grew up on those 80s horror movies, right? Like the slasher genre.
Evil
and now
Dead.
like
yeah.
Oh, fucking Evil Dead's great, by the way. I love those fucking movies.
Yeah, it's great.
But they've really pushed it to the point where it's like people were apparently leaving Terrifier 3 vomiting, right? And this, like the book was that level of violence, but they took it to me here. What I love is there. Don't get me wrong. This movie's violent. There's
His
violence.
movie's very violent. Yeah.
But it is violence for a purpose of showing like how it relates to the character. It's not just violence for the sake of violence. And that was, I actually feel helped the movie, is the fact that you had a woman screenwriter, a woman director. Like they were like, you know, because there were still arguments about misogyny, and they were like, no, dude, like we tone this the fuck down, you know? Right? Like, and it's this is more like a it's almost a character study / satire of the culture, right?
Yeah, of the culture, yeah.
Sure.
I mean, this to me is like, you guys know I fucking love this movie, but this is like top 2 movies for me. This and Goodfellas, top 2 movies. Like, you know,
no, it's a great movie. It was shot well. It was like even all the characters and the little like jabs or like just each extra. No, I don't want to call them extra. Each character, his friends, they all had a reason to be there.
Oh, Justin Theroux is good.
The one friend who can't make a reservation, and his eldest friend's like, he can't make a reservation, and he's drinking Pellegrino now. Like,
he went to rehab. Yeah,
11-4 Yankees so far.
Oh wow, Jesus.
Oh shit.
Well, they get to go back to LA at least. Wait, no, Game 5's in New York again. Yeah,
that guy's gonna be upset.
Yeah, that guy's gonna be upset. Yeah, this we had some comments. Go ahead, Billy. I'm going to get some people's
good line
comments.
I just remembered of. I love how it really, you know, because Bateman, as you said earlier, where he's like he's trying to fit in. Yeah. But then you remember the scene where they're smoking cigars at that bar. It's before Lewis tries to hit him on the bathroom, and he's telling the story. He's like, you guys ever hear the story about Ed Gein? And the guy's like, maitre d' a canal bar. He's like, no, serial killer, Wisconsin. He's like, he saw a pretty girl, and he had 2 thoughts in his head. The first part was like, I want to take her out, treat her nice, do good things to her. And they're like, what are the second part of things? Like, what her head would look like on a stick. And he's like laughing, and everyone's like, okay, buddy.
My God.
So it's like, it's kind of shows you like he's trying to fit in, but he still like slips up here and there, right? Because people are like, what the fuck, dude? So it's just, the whole movie is just there's so many interesting things going on, like the whole yuppie culture. Did this happen or did it not? How is he interacting? How is he trying to fit in?
Like even the fiance that doesn't really have a relationship with him, like they don't
it's
really
bullshit.
Talk to each other.
She's carrying
a big relationship.
She has a pig at one moment during the Christmas. And Patrick Bateman is just like, what is that? And then he's like, mistletoe time.
Even she was like, why is he calling you Marcus? And he's like, oh, don't worry about it.
Mistletoe. Dude, can we talk about though, like Jared Leto? Like, I don't know why he was in this movie. I'm glad that he got
there to get axed. Yeah,
like,
I hate Jared Leto.
Yeah, like what are we doing here? Like
30 seconds to Mars sucks my balls. That fucking man sucks.
Yeah, I wish it took 2 seconds to get to Mars and then like 0 seconds to come home. Because like, I mean, why? Like it was just so weird, and I'm glad he got axed. Because I'm pretty sure he didn't have to act too much.
I mean, I think he was casted for the fact that he has a pretty face. Like, why was he casted in?
I mean, I guess
Fight Club.
I mean, look at Patrick Bateman. I mean, he Christian Bale, very handsome person. Then like apparently in the trivia, when that shower scene, all the women had to sit on set and watch Christian Bale wash himself to get the bun shot. Like, I mean, again, in a movie from the 2000s, you get a really like throwback 80s buns shot.
Yeah. You good point.
That was a Patrick Swayze.
That was a Swayze bun shot.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, that's a Swayze bun shot.
Yeah. So I put
apparently he did that skin routine. Apparently, I read in the trivia he actually did that skin routine that he describes there. He did it every day during the filming of the movie.
I believe it. His skin looked amazing, bro.
It really did. Yeah, he looked great.
So I put the story on Instagram before we did this, and we got some comments. My friend PT from the Long Take Review. Shout out the Long Take Review. Check out the Long Take Review podcast and the Substack. It's amazing. PT said American Psycho definitely holds up, and then he says, as someone who had to live with mild to strong embarrassment through the 90s because of my earliest favorite bands were Huey Lewis and the News and Genesis, this movie was devastating to my attempts to defend myself. Still a classic.
That's fair.
Great.
Although
That's
I
fair.
love some Huey Lewis in the News, man. It's a great fucking band. They got the Back to the Future connection. you know.
Yeah,
Have you
definitely.
guys done that yet? By the way, because you
Back
need to.
to
We
the-
haven't.
No, we
We
haven't.
haven't.
Come on.
The
Add that to the
quad,
Which is
list,
crazy. Which is crazy.
Everybody
everybody
asks
asks
one.
Dude,
everyone
everybody
asks for it.
Everybody
Everyone wants
asks
to do
for it. Like
Yeah.
my friend Jeff is like, "How have you not done that? Your dog's name is Marty McFly." I
But-
was like, "Because I already
Come on,
know what
bro.
I'm going to say
Yeah.
about it." I
We should
already.
just
I
do-
mean,
Just do Back to the Future 2 or 3 then.
I
Just
think
do 3.
I think
'cause
you do all.
Two's
Two's a
pass.
fever
Come on.
dream. 2 is a fever dream.
I think
I
doing
want
it
that
all
fucking
together.
sports almanac though.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think doing it all together.
You got to do
is
that
Oh,
though.
God.
I think you
The-
should
the
do it at some point.
trilogy.
Oh
Yeah.
my
The
god.
I agree.
trilogy is good because you got to watch it in all together. Is like I know why they did the Western one. It was dumb,
I hated
but like
it.
I know why they did it. They wanted to go through all the
Everyone-
different things, and like
everyone
there is a
wanted-
rumor that they're gonna do Back to the Future 4.
But Michael J.
Yeah.
Fox can't be in it.
I would be okay with him. So some people would say like Tom Holland as Marty's like. I
Can we just
kind
put
of
it to
see
bed?
it.
Can we just put it to bed and not have another one? Like it's been done. It's good. It was like when they
By
did
the
another
way-
Teen Wolf with what's his face.
Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
I saw that in the theater. Teen Wolf 2. I remember seeing that. Yeah. Yep.
What was the
So
point?
my grandma in the theater. Piece of shit. Yeah.
Now,
movie, not my
did you
grandma.
guys did you guys see that movie was terrible? But I watched it a couple times. But did you see that him and Michael J. Fox were at like a game a couple years ago, and they were like the two Teen Wolves, like they
Oh,
Shut
that's
up.
hilarious.
yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I love that.
Uh,
the thing
Speaking
about
of remakes,
Teamwork,
by the way,
you know
did you
that-
say they're going to remake this fucking movie? By the way,
that's what I
and
wanted to
they're
bring
not
up.
calling it a fucking remake. They're
That's right,
calling
a
it a
reimagining.
reboot, and they can go fuck themselves because
That's
this
right.
fucking movie should not fucking be touched. And
So-
they said they're
No.
going to hit on the source material more, which is going to
Ugh.
fuck off, man. Like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
this is a big problem for me.
So
Fuck off
yeah,
with this.
I
American
agree then.
Psycho is getting a new reimagining from director Luca
Right here.
Guadagnino.
Yeah, fuck you, Luca.
They shouldn't touch
I would
this.
say fuck you to this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
'cause you're
fucking
changing
thank
the
you, bro.
whole thing, man.
He's an Italian
there's
film
gonna
be-
director.
It's gonna
Yeah.
be a Thrasher movie.
Yeah, and if they're gonna lean into the source material more, because once again, I forget where I read the article, but like, don't call it a remake, it's a reimagine. I'm like, that's some fucking bullshit fucking language. Hey, we're not gonna fuck it up. We're
Yeah.
reimagining it. No, get a new idea, asshole. Read another fucking book and make something
Yeah.
different, you piece of shit. Like, no, leave this fucking movie alone. I'm sorry. I'm very, very I know I'm very adamant about this.
Yeah.
No, I
Fuck
get
no.
it.
No.
I
No.
don't. He did the remake of Suspiria. That's right. Okay, he did that.
What
and
is
he did a
that?
bunch- Suspiria is an old. It's an older Italian, horror film about a ballet school, and actually, that was done in the 70s. It's really interesting. Though the director's a creep, so it's also
Is it a good Italian horror movie, or is it like on the cannibal Holocaust scale?
No. It's not like that. It's an actual movie. Like
Okay, yeah.
It's an actual
'Cause
film.
that was that was an Italian director too,
I
where they
watched
thought
that.
people actually got. Is it worth watching, or is it just ridiculous?
The,
That
It's-
people
it's-
thought people actually got killed and eaten.
Yeah,
in that, right?
it's-
Like,
yeah,
I think
it-
they got put on trial. Yeah,
They killed a turtle in it. There's a lot of things that people
Yeah.
thought really happened that I think also some stuff might have other happened, like with the
Yeah.
indigenous people there and stuff. It's
Yeah,
a
the Italians love their
horrifying movie.
satanic panic too. Like, remember
Yeah.
what's the broad from Seattle that like her roommate got killed and they said she was a Satan worshiper? What's her fucking?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I
talking?
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These fucking. We're all
Yeah.
Italian here. I mean, me and Pete are
Yeah.
Italian here. Sorry, man, but like
Yeah,
those
no, it's all
Italians
good.
over there get a little fucking nuts. Like, let's calm down with the Satan
Yeah.
stuff, guys.
I mean, he is putting out a movie. What's interesting, it's coming out this year, based off a book by William Burroughs that I read called Queer, and he's doing that movie. That's off a different book. There hasn't been a movie about it. Do that.
That's fine.
But-
Go with that.
Do not do this because this
No.
movie, if they're gonna do more of the source material,
Was there
and-
American Psycho 2?
okay? So
yeah.
in 2002,
Oh yeah.
there was
I've
an
seen it.
American Psycho
bad.
2 with Mila Kunis. Why was
No.
there? I've never seen it. I don't want
I've
to
seen it. It's
see it.
bad. It's not good.
and
Don't watch it.
It sounds terrible. And that
Don't watch
movie only made $10 million.
Yeah,
And
it was really
only
bad.
It was only 88 minutes long. That's not even a movie.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's much different.
This movie was made for $7 million and it only made $34 million. Wow.
It's a travesty, man. It's a great film. Like it's very well done. It's to me this is the step off for Christian Bale launching into the stratosphere as like an Oscar-winning actor, in my opinion. Right?
Yeah.
Like I think people are like, holy shit, like who is this guy? What can he do? And I still, like I said, I just remember the first time I watched this, sitting in the theater. I really don't remember who was all there. I just remember sitting next to Stephanie Machado and like laughing and her looking at me like I was a fucking nut job because I was laughing at this movie.
So
it's hilarious.
Oh my God. So the
so
podcast, the Pop Culture Reflections podcast said their favorite scene was his daily skin routine. They said it definitely passes
Great
the
scene.
nostalgia test. Jeremy said you should do one where it's just Bill drunkenly reciting the entire movie from memory. Shout out Jeremy, who's on the Black Album episode.
Yeah.
And the Mrs. Doubtfire episode.
We're gonna put that in the Patreon part of it. It's just
exactly. It's gonna be me doing the monologues.
Yeah. And my friend Eric Fuhrer, who came out with this great book about he's coming out with a memoir called My Buffed Up Life, and he did a whole book of poems about his own personal identity journey that's called Geller Studies. That has to do with all these Sarah Michelle Gellar characters. Really cool. He was just at USC and did a workshop for the students, and he said, "Oh my God, that movie fucked me up." So I mean, like, there's a lot of strong reactions. Yeah, there's a lot of strong reactions to American Psycho, and I think we come to the part now where it's just like, one, don't reimagine this. We're going against
happen, guys. Get over it.
And plus, again, I remember you said this, Bill, in another episode when we talk about Roadhouse. It's too close. This movie's 24 years old. It's not ripe for a reboot, right?
No,
like
exactly.
It's too close. This is not
like Scarface, the one we all know and love with Al Pacino, is a remake, but it's from a movie from the fucking 30s, 50 years later. Like different,
to the point where we didn't
film
even know
changed so much, right? But when a movie is still in popular culture where people like know and remember it, to reimagine or remake it is fucking lazy in my opinion. Like, fuck off. Find a new idea.
Yeah, so hashtag not my Bateman and hashtag not my Psycho.
Well, yeah. We'll have to, by the way, when that piece of shit comes out, we're gonna have to watch it and do another episode on that.
We're gonna have
We have to.
It's gonna
By that time, someone has to pay us to
watch it.
Someone's gonna have to like subsidize that watching.
No,
send us to the premiere.
Look, we'll all come to New York to watch it. Pico,
that'll
be a guys' night.
Exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
that'll be a guys' night.
QSR.
And then we'll
go to QSR just to make up for it.
Oh my God!
If QSR is closed, we're gonna rent it out. I don't care. I don't think it's closed.
Yeah, I'll buy
it. So
be like, listen, can we just like, if it's like
buy the equipment?
I can't afford that.
Can we just buy the equipment?
Yeah, imagine it's just abandoned, and they're just like, listen, the maze is still there.
Yeah,
you could just go to Toys R. You could just go like buy
Toys R Us doesn't exist.
Toys R Us.
No, that doesn't exist anymore.
It's Home Goods.
It used to be right down the block there.
I know, right?
Yeah, I think it's like Home Essentials.
Like you could buy those laser the home laser game that we just would. We'll all just go to the maze and play.
Oh man. Oh my God. Well, here we are. American Psycho from 2000. Christian Bale. Does it pass the nostalgia test? I'm going to say yes. Obviously, I think it passes.
I'm going to say it fucking definitely passes. It's a great film. And if you haven't watched it and you're listening up to here, we're sorry, but you should still watch it anyway. Cause like,
oh yeah. Nothing we said.
I've not watched it that many times. I've probably watched it like maybe 8-9 times, and like I was like, damn, it's just a good fucking the timing is perfect. I would argue that every single actor in this movie does a great job at every single scene.
Absolutely.
Every scene. And there's gold in every little nuance that's happening. Like, what's up with the club and the Charlie's Angels dancers that are just like,
80s
they have
clubs,
guns
man.
in their hands and they're just going like
Love
this.
it.
Like, what the fuck is happening? And then there was Halloween at one point. Like, it was crazy.
It's great.
Yeah,
that was great. Yeah.
I'm with you guys. This passed 100% for me. Manny, I probably watched this movie like not even fucking with you like 100 times. Like, I think who said it earlier? We were talking about like we'd be like drinking in my Astoria apartment, like, guys, let's watch American Psycho. Like, I've watched this movie like 100 times. I fucking love this movie. It 100% passed the nostalgia test. What kind of made Christian Bale like one of my favorite actors? I just think it's, and to me, it's every time you watch it, like you see little different things. Like, and to me, that's something that also like a movie that like kind of holds up the test of time is if every time you watch it, you get a different vibe from it or a different feel. So, and 100 times in, I'm still fucking watching it. I'm probably going to watch it again after this right now.
Return some videotapes.
I'm not crazy, people. Just like this movie.
I gotta return some videotapes.
No, like
that's the best line.
That's the best line.
It's like, where were you? I had to return videotapes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, yeah, that takes a while. Like
100%.
Yeah. I mean, we all remember that.
Like this guy wouldn't just buy videotapes. He's got CDs like beyond CDs.
I love it.
Exactly.
Crazy.
I mean, the biggest piece of advice I have to give to the viewers of this podcast and the listeners of this podcast is don't just stare at it, eat it.
Oh my God. And on that note, everyone like, subscribe, and share this podcast. Share
buy
with
a piece of merch so that we can start paying our dues. So Dan can get something to pay for posting on Podbeam.
And you know what? And it's just like if you share it with one person, that would just share it with one person. And it would help so much. And that's what really helps. Share and then leave 5 stars like on Spotify or a comment. That would help. But really the sharing, that we're like the Grateful Dead people, rest in peace, Phil Lesh. But like, we're like the Grateful Dead. Share it, word of mouth, get everyone out there to listen to this episode and every other episode that we've done. All the way back to the cocktail episode, even though it sounds like garbage. I mean, the comedy is amazing. And you'll love
Smash that like and subscribe button, guys.
Do it right now.
Smash it.
Do it.
Smash it.
Eat it. Later.
Oh my God, everyone. We'll see you on the next test. Peace.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please subscribe to the Nostalgia Test podcast to know when new episodes drop. Don't forget to leave us 5 stars and a positive review so more people can find the podcast. Share your thoughts and memories on today's topic on our Twitter @NostalgiaTest and on Instagram @TheNostalgiaTest. Tune in next time because you never know what pop culture will pop up on The Nostalgia Test.